What does it mean to be a Mason 24 hours a day? Yes, once you've joined the fraternity and provided that you didn't leave, you will be a Mason until the day you die. So you're technically always a Mason. But does it also mean that Masonic values and the Masonic character serve as a center of your moral compass? When you think about the structure of the Masonic journey, it's clear a man doesn't wake up an expert builder. He starts as an entered apprentice. He's fumbling with his tools, learning how to rough out his raw edges. Next, he moves to a fellow craft, stepping up the winding stairs to grapple with the liberal arts and sciences. Eventually, if he puts in the sweat, he is raised to the sublime degree of a master mason. And even then, this does not signal a final destination. Instead, it's an initiation into an even heavier workload. If you've ever stood quietly at the back of a Masonic memorial service, you've witnessed the ultimate expression of this theme. We watch brethren clad in solemn regalia gather around a departed brother to perform our final public ritual. We talk about him laying down his working tools for the last time. It's a stark, sobering reminder that in Freemasonry, the work is endless. It doesn't pause for coffee breaks and it doesn't slow down because you're tired. The only thing that truly halts the craftsman's hand is death itself. So what does it mean to pick up your tools every single day? How do we take this ancient blueprint of work, progression, and mortality and apply it to our families, our workplaces, and our communities? That's exactly what we're going to unpack in today's episode. We're trying to shed light on what it means to be a 24-hour Mason, how to balance the demands of labor, refreshment, and distress, and why your daily interactions are the true test of your character. Picture holding a simple wooden 24-hour inch rule. To an outsider, it's just a carpenter's scale. To a Mason, it's a profound moral compass for managing the most finite resource we possess, time. The ritual breaks that ruler into three equal parts. 8 hours for our ordinary vocations, your jobs that earn your income. 8 hours for service to God and a distressed, worthy brother. And 8 hours for rest and refreshment. It sounds neat and tidy on paper. In reality, it's an absolute battlefield. We live in a culture obsessed with hustle. Notifications ping past midnight. Work bleeds into family dinners. Chronic burnout is worn like a badge of honor. Yet, long before corporate productivity gurus pitched time blocking, operative guilds recognized a much deeper psychological truth. The ancient Roman philosopher Seneca warned that life isn't actually short. We simply waste most of it. The 24-hour inch gauge forces us to confront this wastage head on. It's an instrument of ethical geometry designed to prevent our days from dissolving into chaos. Let's examine that middle slice, the 8 hours dedicated to service and the volume of the sacred law. How often do we actually show up for our brother when he stumbles? It's easy to pay lodge dues and wear a square and compas's lapel pin. It's entirely another thing to drop everything when a worthy brother faces sudden distress, sickness, or grief. Writing a check for charity is a notable act of service, yes. But what about looking across the kitchen table at your family, checking in on an isolated senior, or pulling someone back from the brink of despair? Psychologists call this intentional distribution of energy structural equilibrium. Without rigid, healthy boundaries, anxiety takes over. The gauge acts as a psychological anchor, reminding us that rest isn't laziness and labor isn't the entirety of a human soul. Even medieval cathedral builders needed time to step back, lower their balance, and restore their physical strength. If you push the stone too hard, it shatters under the pressure. If you ignore the moral ledger of your day, your priorities fracture completely. So, how do you apply this tool tomorrow morning? Open your digital calendar. Does it reflect equity? Are you dividing your day with the precision of a master craftsman? Or are you letting the relentless currents of modern distraction throw you against the rocks? Grab your mental gauge, measure your hours, carve out space for what actually matters before the day slips right through your fingers. At the end of each lodge meeting, you lock the door behind you. You hand in your apron and step out into the parking lot. The tile floor is gone. The lights of the lodge room fade. But that is precisely where the real test begins. We talk a lot inside our Canadian lodges about living on the level and acting by the square. It sounds great during a degree lecture, but what does it look like when you are stuck behind a slow driver on the highway or dealing with a toxic colleague who tries to throw you under the bus? That is the exact moment you find out if your masonry is skin deep. Think about the working tools of the fellow craft. The level teaches us that we share a common human ground, stripping away the artificial hierarchies of wealth, politics, and social status. Sociologist Warren D. Tenhoughton points out that human groups constantly lean toward dominance hierarchies, where the powerful hoard resources and step on everyone else. The level in Masonic philosophy actively pushes back against that instinct. It demands that we treat the janitor with the exact same baseline of human dignity as the CEO. Then you have the plumb line. It forces you to stand upright, keeping your interactions straight, honest, and unbending. When you deal with family, friends, and even total strangers, your word has to be your bond. If you cheat someone in a business deal or snap at your kids because you had a rough day at work, you are throwing a crooked wall out of alignment. I'm sure many of us know of a hardworking brother who has a humble job in our community. Maybe he owns a small coffee shop. He's not flashy or loud. He doesn't hold a high office. But if you watched how he treated customers who barely had two quarters to rub together, you saw true operative masonry in action. He gave them a fair shake every single time. He didn't put on a performance. He just walked the square outside the door. That is what the craft demands of us. Every interaction with a stranger, every conversation across the boardroom table, and every quiet moment at your kitchen table is an opportunity to prove that you are an upright builder, not a wrecking crew. So you can spend months memorizing every line of the catechism. You can stand up in open lodge and rattle off ritual without missing a single beat. But if your temper still flares at the slightest provocation, or if you ignore a neighbor who needs a hand, you're just a parrot with a ritual book. Freemasonry isn't a theater group. It's intended to be a forge to build your character. Remember that rough, unpolished ashlar full of flaws? That stone represents you and me on day one. The ashlars are the quintessential symbols of human character, waiting to be shaped by moral discipline and constant self-correction. Memorizing paragraphs doesn't carve away a single bump on that stone. True work requires friction, pressure, and the heavy impact of daily life. We can't forget the old Masonic truth. Our ancestors weren't trying to get more men into masonry, but rather more masonry into men. As Edwin Markham famously stated, why build these cities glorious if man unbuilded goes? In vain we build the world unless the builder also grows. That is the core of being a living stone. Your daily interactions become the true test of your craftsmanship. Psychologists talk about cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable gap between what we profess to value and how we actually behave when nobody is watching. Masonry bridges that gap by demanding that our internal philosophies translate into tangible community impact. If all we do is meet behind closed doors to recite ancient phrases, we miss the entire point of the craft. The lodge room is simply the workshop. The real quarry is out there on the street, among real people, where the hammer beats the stone every single day. Every single lodge room has a silent guardian standing outside the outer door. The tiler holds a drawn sword. keeping watch against cowards and eavesdroppers, ensuring that nothing disrupts the solemn labor of the brethren inside. But here's the thing. The real danger isn't some guy trying to sneak up the stairs to steal our ritual secrets. The real threat is sitting right behind your own teeth. We forget that the tongue is an untamed instrument. It can build up a brother with words of encouragement, or it can tear down a person's reputation with a casual piece of gossip. If we applied the Tyler's vigilance to our daily speech, half the arguments at home and workplace squabbles would vanish before they even started. Many of us work in high stress jobs where deadlines are constantly piling up, tempers running hot. Without even realizing it, we could have snapped at a junior colleague over a minor mistake using language that crossed the line. And sometimes we only realize how we reacted after a quiet moment of reflection, a realization that we failed in guarding our words and regulating our passions. Our aprons might have been spotless, but if we aren't careful, our mouths can spew the most vile, hurtful, and unmasonic utterances. Guarding the West Gate means you pause before you speak. You ask yourself three simple questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If it fails those tests, you lock it outside. You keep your guard up. Because a true Mason doesn't just watch what happens inside the lodge room. He stands permanent watch over the gate of his own lips. We talk a lot about symbols, aprons, and working tools. But let's not miss the forest for the trees. From dividing your day with the 24-hour inch gauge to walking the square outside the door. The whole point is transformation. We shape the rough ashlar of our own character so we can build a better community. Guarding our speech and chasing lifelong learning aren't optional extras. They are the daily labor of a true builder. Take a look around at your own life. Are you building or are you just tearing things down? Pick up your tools. Sharpen your focus. This is a Brotherly Love podcast. Let's get to work.